What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and today we get a huge opportunity. We're getting ready to do an interview with a guy by the name of George Powell III, an individual who was locked up for over 11 years for a string of armed robberies that he didn't commit. George Powell III has been released from prison now for just over 3 weeks. He's been granted the opportunity to have a new trial because so much was done wrong in his initial trial, including the use of a jailhouse snitch that would testify against him and in part lead to the conviction that he would receive a prison sentence of 28 years to serve. The Innocence Project has gotten involved in George's case, and another important thing to mention about this guy's story and where I first became aware of this guy, his story was actually featured in a Netflix show called Exhibit A. This is a huge opportunity and a huge interview that we're getting ready to bring to you guys. And folks, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce all of you to George Powell III.
I felt like the judge wasn't listening to me. The district attorney don't give a damn. At that moment in time, I was hopeless. And the only way I could get hope, Joe, was to give this guy hope. That's how I got my hope. That's where I came alive. I wasn't just sitting in jail facing 5 life sentences for 5 aggravated robberies. I was in here giving this man hope so he could live his life without even knowing that he was a snitch. And he was gonna lie to the district attorney's office and said I confessed to him. When I never confessed anything to this man. All I did was care about this man.
George, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to speak with us here on After Prison Show.
I appreciate you, Joe. Thanks for inviting me.
I first ran across your story on a Netflix special called Exhibit A. And your story was one of a few different stories that were featured about individuals who were incarcerated because of either bad practices by prosecutions or being coerced into false confessions. You were locked up for something that ultimately you didn't do, and you would spend almost 11 years in prison for this.
Yeah, 11 years and 3 months. And still facing a life sentence for the same crime that I didn't do.
And you've only been out now for how long?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And you're not even free, totally. You're out on bond with what, like an ankle monitor or something like that?
Yeah, I had to post a $150,000 bond. I got a GPS monitor on my ankle. I'm still in a prison. You know, I can't leave my house. I got a curfew from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Excuse me. But even during this daylight hours, I can't go out that door really, because when they framed me for these robberies, they took everything I had. I lost everything. I don't have my music. I don't have anything, any prized possessions that I had in relationship to my journey through them days. I don't have none of the CDs from the artists that they trusted me with their music. I lost contact with everybody for 11 years and 3 months. When I got locked up, Joe, I didn't reach out to people. I just took it like a man.
And taking it like a man, you ended up getting sentenced to 28 years in prison.
Correct.
You just recently got released, and you've been home for 3 weeks now, and the reason you're out on bond is because you've been granted a new trial.
Yes, I have. Thank God.
And let's talk about some of the things that led to you getting this new trial. Why did they feel like the old conviction wasn't any good, and now there's this new trial that's about to take place?
Okay. The number one mention I want to say is this. Her name is Tamara Parsons. She's my fiance. She moved all the way down from Canada in 2013, all the way down to Texas with her life savings after we had been corresponding for a while. She believed in my innocence. So she came down here, moved to Huntsville, Texas, and she started working on my case. She was studying criminal justice up there in Canada, and she was very curious about cases like mine. So when she moved down here, her and my dad put together $16,000, which was a miracle. Miracle number 2 after she moved down, right? This expert came down here all the way from another state, I believe it was Ohio, and did the height measurement on me, did an audio comparison, because one of the robberies had an audio recording of the robber that all the victims from all the robberies identified as being the same voice they remember hearing, robbing them, and he even said the same thing. So after he completed his report, she took that report along with the state's expert's report that's totally false, that stated that the person in the robbery video was no less than 6'1". And she submitted both of those reports to the Texas Forensic Science Commission. Now, they don't just take any cases. We submitted a complaint. Hundreds of complaints are submitted, and they deny most of them, probably 99% of them. And they took a deeper look into the reports, and they took a deeper look into the photographs. And they, by another miracle, took my case after deliberating about it for like 2 years. Once they came back with their final report, which was thick, hundreds of pages, somebody had called the district attorney's office and said, "You got an innocent man in prison." At that point, when their findings were in my favor, the Innocence Project of Texas came to the rescue. Mr. Michael Ware, who's my attorney out of Fort Worth, Texas, and Mr. Walter Reeves, who's my other attorney out of Waco, Texas. Legendary attorneys. That was miracle number 4. So when they filed their writ, their actual innocence writ, we had to go through a series of evidentiary hearings, but not without the judge who represents the 27th district, judicial district in Bell County. He reviewed the writ, and he could have easily denied it. And we would not be sitting here right now if he denied it. That's another miracle that happened when he said, "Okay, I deserve to be heard. My case deserves to come back to that courtroom." So after a series of 9 hearings over the course of 6 months, that judge came back after another year and said he's granting me relief in the form of a new trial. But he did deny me the actual innocence claim that is totally supported by the evidence, and my lawyers proved that I'm innocent. At that point, when the judge comes back with his findings of facts and conclusions of law, he has to send it to the high court called the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. They have to look at the writ. Okay, if he would have said denied on everything, they would rubber stamp that. And in this case, they would have rubber stamped it because we filed an actual innocence claim. And when that claim is filed and it leaves the district court judge's hands, whether he denied it or not, or granted it, it has to go to the high court, and they have to do their own independent investigation. Because 9 of their justices has to look at this case with fresh eyes. In this case, they agreed with the judge's recommendation to grant me a new trial based on prosecutor misconduct, the district attorney of Bell County doing illegal things to prosecute me. And they totally ignored the fact that we filed an actual innocence claim.
You know, something else I want to talk with you about is another big part of what led to your initial conviction. And that was the fact that there was a jailhouse snitch who actually testified and went to court against you.
Yes, sir.
You know, tell us about that whole experience right there. Like, who was this guy? Did you know him? Did you ever talk to this guy? You know, what was it like seeing him in the courtroom if you did know him?
Man, I had no idea. They moved me from one tank to another tank out of the blue. Normally, when you go to jail, you stay in that same tank until you go to trial. Out the blue, they just moved me. I moved from a 16-man tank where we're all sleeping on bunk beds to an 8-man tank where we each have our own cells, right? And it's pretty tight quarters. So this guy was right across from me, and nobody in the tank liked the guy. He had bad hygiene, he bad maintenance period. So me, I'm an objective type of guy. I'm not gonna judge you based on what other people feel and think about you. I'm gonna find out for myself through our own experience. So I feel sorry for the guy, man. And I would tell the other guys when he would hardly ever come out of the cell because they were ready to beat him up all the time. They wanted him out the tank. You know, they got the TV in the little day room, right? And we all face this way to watch the TV. Well, he's laying in his cell at the very edge watching the TV like that. So, I mean, I feel sorry for this guy. So I started reading I was reading my Bible pretty tough. I was in my word. And I just felt like I felt compelled to pray with him all the time. I needed prayer too. You know, I'm in a situation I shouldn't be in. because I didn't know him. I didn't know his background or his history. I didn't know the type that he was this type of guy. He come to find out, he's been doing this, writing letters to the district attorney and the police department and the sheriffs and the major of the jail, saying, hey, I got information on this person. I got information on this person. And he was getting deals for a long time doing this. I didn't know this. So it got to the point where them guys, they really wanted to smash him. And the more they wanted to smash him, the more I felt like I needed to protect him. And there was plenty of times where I could hear him talking, we're going to get him. We're going to get him today. And I'd be like, come in here, man. Let's pray. You know what I'm saying? To try to get the spirit of God in there, right? And I pray with him. And I tell him everything was going to be all right. I'd walk him to his cell. And I would stay in the day room to make sure that nobody hurt him. You know? And then come to find out, man, this man was snuck. You know, I would talk to him. I would tell him, hey, I'm in a bad situation. I'm innocent. You know, they got me in here for this, and I really need help. I don't know how to figure this out. I felt like my lawyers ain't helping me. I felt like the judge wasn't listening to me. The district attorney don't give a damn. At that moment in time, I was hopeless. And the only way I could get hope, Joe, was to give this guy hope. That's how I got my hope. That's where I came alive. I wasn't just sitting in jail facing 5 life sentences for 5 aggravated robberies. I was in here giving this man hope so he could live his life without even knowing that he was a snitch. And he was going to lie to the district attorney's office and said, I confessed to him. And I never confessed anything to this man. All I did was care about this man.
You would end up going to court, and this guy would be in the courtroom testifying against you?
Didn't know him. I didn't know his real name. So I seen a witness list that the prosecutors supplied my attorney with that he gave me. And I'm trying to figure out, who are these guys? Who is this person? Who is this person? I don't know these people. And then, when we're in court, all of a sudden they called his name, and here he walks through the door. And I'm like, what? And he gets on the stand and he starts telling lies after lies after lies. And I'm like, I couldn't believe, all I could do was shake my head. And I can't believe this is happening. How did this happen? What did I do to this man to make him do this to me? I didn't never do nothing to this man.
I got to imagine that had to be a heartbreaking situation to go through. You know, it's a situation that a lot of people deal with in terms of a jailhouse snitch saying anything in an effort to get themselves some sort of a deal. Would there be a deal that was struck with this guy that you ever heard about? Like, did things work out favorably for him for doing this to you?
Okay, check this out. This snitch is a career criminal. Now, this guy right here will break into your house, steal everything you got. He didn't have, come to find out, this man didn't have any morals. This man was thoroughly rotten. This guy has a criminal history that's so crazy. And how he was getting out of trouble every single time was the same thing he did to me. He did it before. Okay? So you're asking me about the deal he got. Because of all the trouble he had been in, now he's facing a 25 years to life sentence. Right? So with with him testifying against me in his trial, the prosecutors told him, if you testify and you convince people that you're telling the truth, then we'll consider you for a deal. And that's one of the grounds that got my case overturned.
And I was about to ask that. You had mentioned that, there were dirty tactics by the prosecution. I imagine
Joe, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I didn't answer your question yet. So he's facing 25 years to a life sentence for these charges that he's in jail for, right? After he testifies, he wasn't even gone to trial yet. They reduced his bond from $35,000 to $70. And at the conclusion, he was facing a minimum, without the enhancement to a habitual criminal, a minimum of 5 years. You can't go below that for the charge he was in jail for. They gave him 2 years. How does the law go below the statutory minimum to give a man 2 years for this crime? Like you said earlier, he got on the stand to testify in relationship to my case, so his case gets mitigated. and he gets a lower sentence. One criminal testifying against another alleged criminal, and he gets favored. That makes no sense. That is the point of criminal. We need criminal justice reform badly.
And you know, that was something that me and you had spoken about prior to doing this interview. One of the things that you were very passionate about is criminal justice reform.
Correct. I'm not stopping till something happens.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world. There's so much more that I want to ask you about, and I want to switch gears a little bit. You would end up getting convicted of these 5 robberies. You would end up getting sentenced to 28 years in prison. You know, talk to me about what it was like and where your mindset was. Did you lose all hope completely when you got convicted of these 5 robberies, sentenced to 28 years in prison, and you first got to prison?
My trial lasted 5 days. I remember sitting there listening to witness after witness that the state presented. And then I'm asking my lawyers, writing down questions. I'm saying, here, ask him this question. I'm trying to get my lawyer's attention, but my other lawyer's saying, leave him alone, leave him alone. He's working his own strategy. He's got this, he's got you. I said, okay. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, I can't do nothing about this, man. They're not listening to me. When it came time to present our case, he had nobody to put up there. He just re-examined some of their witnesses. He had nobody to put up on the stand because we never established a defense. So it was no surprise when the jury came back and found me guilty. They couldn't give me no less than a certain number because of the charge. And they gave me 28 years. And when they gave me 28 years, I just sat there and I just put my hands in my head in my hands, excuse me, and I just shook my head. I got 28 aggravated years. It was final. I'm not getting out for 14 to 28 years. Now, you want my feelings on this? You want to know my perspective? I got to do 14 years to come up for parole. That means I'm not eligible for parole until December of 2022. We're still not there. And with the aggravated robbery, you're not going to do no less than 20 years in Texas penitentiary. You're going to do 20, and 28 number is a really bad number. 28 years is a bad number. Most people that get 28 years do it all for some reason. I don't know if that's some type of a
superstition. Yeah.
It's just a weird number. People normally get like 10s, 15s, 20s, 25s. Everybody that gets them numbers in between, they do most of it. So you're asking me about my trip to prison? On December 31st, 2009, they tell me to pack my stuff. You're going to prison. So all I could do was just go. And when I got there, I was all alone, man. I'm convicted for robbery. My family and what little friends I did have still, they turned their backs on me. With the exception of my father. My father, he was there. He made sure he made sure I had money in my books every month for 11 years. You know, he's a great man for doing that. I mean, that's a long bill. I went to a processing center, and from the processing center, I didn't have too many problems. Then I went to a unit called Cofield. Now, Cofield is notorious in Texas. 4 rows high. The police or the officers there, they don't care. They're just there to get their paychecks. Don't come to them asking them for help. If you get yourself in a situation, you better get yourself out of it. And that means you better hurt that person. Through my situation, through my experience there, I can honestly say that I was protected by God because nothing never happened to me. But I've seen plenty happen to other people, and I didn't know that it wasn't going to happen to me. I just had to stand my ground and just go through it like a warrior. I met a lot of people there that actually found out that I cared about, man. There's a lot of people locked up that they messed up. But other than that mess up, there are actually some pretty good guys in there, man. So I left there. I did 4.5 years there, then went to another unit called the Walls Unit for 4.5 years. That was pretty much a laid-back unit. I had a great time there as far as being locked up goes. A lot of church, a lot of outside activities, you know. That's when I met the Innocence Project and they filed the writ. And then a whole bunch of stuff started happening to me as far as getting transferred. Once the Innocence Project got involved and once the media got involved, then just weird things started happening with the administrations. I got shipped from that Walls unit to 4 hours south to San Antonio, Corpus Christi, or between that area, where my wife, I'm 4 hours away from my wife, because she moved to Huntsville, where the Walls unit is, just because I was there. And now she has to travel 4 hours to come see me. And she even blew her car up coming to see me one time.
She blew the car up?
Yeah, the engine blew up.
My God.
Yeah. But on that unit there, it was like down by the south of the border, right? By Mexico. So most of the people that worked there were Hispanic. And it was really hard for me on that unit.
I know what you're trying to say. I want to ask you this. Let's talk about the media exposure. It almost sounds like what you're saying, once the media got involved in, your story, that they almost tried to hide you in the prison system or make you a lot less accessible. But I want to talk about the Netflix. Because again, this is the first time that I got a chance to hear your story, which was on the show Exhibit A. And one reason why your story stuck out to me so much and I remembered it was because of the fact that you were a rapper. You talked about how you rapped for the troops and how you had a very high level of respect for the military, and that just stuck with me for some reason. Fast forward to just a couple of days ago when a woman would reach out to me and I would get that message about getting in contact with you, and here we are today. I'm really curious about what it was like for you getting filmed to be featured in a documentary and how that potentially changed your time in prison from the way that the staff treated you. Did you become like an overnight celebrity in the prison? Did mail just start flooding in for you? What was it like to be a part of that show?
The Netflix episode brought me a lot of justice. And yes, a lot of people that I would have never met without that episode came into my life. That basically gave me a worldwide platform. So how I felt about it, I was dreaming about a moment like that for 11 years. And as it's unfolding, I was humble. I had to humble myself because I'm still surrounded by a bunch of guys that aren't getting out of prison. And with the Netflix, their names are Kelly and Samantha. They were the main producers for the show. And when they gave me their love and their attention, and they cared about my case, just like you care about my case. They showed me that my case means something to a lot of people. So it changed my life, Joe. But I remained humble through the whole thing. I didn't brag about it. All it did was starting to get me thinking, how in the world can I take this experience and start helping other people when I get out of prison that are inside here, whether they did it or not. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed.
And I don't mean to kind of deviate, but I want to stay on the same subject, this whole Netflix show. What did other prisoners think about this? Did they know, hey, look, George, they're doing a documentary about him. Boy, George, you famous now, ain't you? Like, was there that type of, reaction?
Yeah, because, I got moved to the unit next to my area, Hughes unit. And, that had to be a part of God's plan, too. I did have a rough entrance into prison. I took it like a man, even though nothing bad ever happened to me. It still was very hard to come to prison for something you didn't do. And you have to, all you have on your mind is 14 to 28 years, right? So it's the worst of the worst. People used to tell me all the time, man, put a smile on your face. It's going to be all right, man. God's going to show you the way. So I just, okay, I put a smile on my face. Then I get moved finally to the Hughes unit. And that's when Netflix came to see me. And that's where the news stations started coming to see me. Amani Payne, Brandon Hamilton, Olivia Levada. These news figures, we watch news every day. So now they're coming to do personal interviews with me. That's on TV. The newspapers all over the state of Texas are talking about my case. So the guys around me I got a lot of support. I got a lot of love. I got a lot of respect. And then there were some haters, you know, but yeah, I got treated better by them and the staff. Nobody did me no favors, but I got better respect. I ended up with the job that I wanted on the unit. You know, that's what mattered to me, my quality of life.
What
And they
was
made
the
it.
job, if you don't mind me asking?
I was the ice man.
I was the juice man, so there you go.
I passed out. I brought ice to every single pod, every single section in the pods, every single dorm. I filled up the coolers on the the side of the prison where the guys can't come. They're sagged up. I was an important person to a lot of people, not because of anything dealing with Netflix or the media, but because I went into them places, into them dark places, and I always tried to give them guys hope and the ice. Because I look, look, I was just one of the ice men. There's four of them, but I was the best one. So when I came on, it's so hot in it's like 130 degrees inside them cell blocks. There's no air conditioning. The fans don't work. They give you a little small fan. I mean, you got to buy it. You don't push no air. So yeah, I had the best job in the unit.
You know, George, there's so much that we could talk about in relation to your case and to your story. I want to get close to the end of this right here for this first initial interview with you. And as we do so, one of the most pressing questions that I want to ask you is, you know, with this looming upcoming trial, I have to believe that that makes it difficult for you to really be trying to pursue the things that you would want to be pursuing given this fresh chance at life. Or do you not look at it like that at all? You've already gotten this fresh chance at life and you're going to take every day and try to make the very most of it.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, like I told you a few times in this interview, the worst of the worst people got my love because I came from them dark roads and dirty streets. I came from the bottom long time ago. And I know that people do bad things, but that doesn't make them bad people. So I write my lyrics and I aim them at individuals that I know need somebody to lift them up out of them dark places that they're trapped in. And that's how I'm living my life. That's what I do. I write, I compose verses, and right now I'm in the process of meeting up with a very reputable producer. I can't mention his name at this moment. I'm involved with a group called the Slap Movement out of Dallas, Texas. My partner King runs that operation. And through him and his organization, we are going to record this project I have. And this project is called Revolution Music. And it's all based on the ideal of reform or revolution. We're going to give the system, the same people that we know that are our neighbors, that are our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers, our sons and our daughters, those individuals that are in the system, they're going to be given a chance to either come on and reform this system by choice or revolution by force. That's how serious this is. The people deserve this. The people are being deceived. This is how serious the situation is, Joe.
It's no stretch of the imagination to see how important music is to you, especially a positive message in the music as well. With the upcoming trial, and I hate to keep talking about this, but this is something that I'm sure a lot of people could wonder. Are you at all worried that you could end up back in prison?
I'm not, that's not even on my radar, Joe. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm worried about recording this music. At that moment, if God wants me back in prison, and I know this ain't going to sound right to a lot of people, maybe. If God wants me back in prison, then it's because he's got me on a mission. There's something that he wants me to do inside that prison or this system. It may be my situation, the injustice related to my situation. It's just obvious that I'm innocent. That's going to spark a reform or revolution. It's whatever God has intended for my life. It's fine. And I'm serious about that. So right now, I'm just focused on music. I'm focused on touching people's lives, changing their lives, creating awareness, giving hope to the hopeless, defining freedom. That's all I'm concerned about right now, Joe.
I really want to emphasize this point, and I hate that I'm doing so late in this video, but there were a lot of injustices that went into your case and this wrongful conviction that led to you spending over 11 years in prison. Hence the fact that you are out here right now, hence the fact that the Innocence Project is a big part of your case, and hence the fact that there's this new trial coming up. So I really want people to pay attention to that. You're not just out here for any old reason at all. You're out here because, there is a very good likelihood that you were falsely and wrongfully convicted. With mentioning that, completely switching gears, talk to me about what it was like for you to get released after those 11 and a half years, or 11 years and 3 months. What was that first day coming home like? And, what was it like to experience so much that you missed out on?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I waited for so long to get out, to show Tamara my love and respect, to show her that I was being real with her, that I was being honest with her, I was being true. That was like one of the most important moments in my life, if not the most important. This woman sacrificed everything for me. She came down here, and along the journey, she was very insecure in relationship to that I might not be true to her, and I might not treat her right when I got out, and there might be somebody else. Well, the conclusion of that is there is nobody else. I'm being true and I'm being right with her, and we're here now. We're about to get married. That was the most important moment right there. But alongside that was finally being able to put my arms around my son as a free man, to let him know his daddy's here. You ain't got nothing to worry about no more, son. I'm here now. And we're working on getting him up here and spending some good time with him, showing him what he is. He's a Powell. That Powells were born to succeed, born to be men with honor and integrity. It may be a rough start, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. To teach my boy that. And then also Tamara's daughter, Sierra. I get to be a father to her. She doesn't have a father. Her father died when she was really, really young. Now I'm stepping in. I'm going to be her father. I'm going to show her how to be a lady. But then I get to record my music. It goes all the way back to the music. Now I get to speak my heart. Like I said, when they took away my freedom, it took away my life. And I believe in living free. I'll die fighting for my rights. Indeed, a real leader is somebody who searches for the truth because he believes in living life for the purpose. I am the definition of a revolutionary, building a revolution, changes and resolutions, creating a massive movement to make it clear that these methods of oppression ain't producing no fear here. If I have to die for the cause, so be it. Just know and believe before I go, I'm defining freedom. The very reason that I was conceived is to fight for the rights of my people living under siege. That's how I feel about it.
That's really powerful. George, I want to thank you for taking the time to rock with us here on After Prison Show. And like I had said, this is only the introduction. It's my hope to be able to do a continuation, a follow-up, and to learn even more about not only your story and you, but how life is for you after prison. As we wrap this up, is there anything that you want to leave people with, anything that you want to say to the world?
Yeah. No matter what you're going through, there's at least one person in this world that cares. And that's me. I know I can't talk to everybody, not at the same time. But you got my name, and you know how to reach out to me. And if you have an issue about something that's going on in your life or about how this world is turning, I encourage you to reach out to me. We together, as many of us as there can be, we can come together and we can find a solution. So all you have to do is come and find me. I ain't hard to find.
And mentioning how to find you, George, where can people get in contact with you? Please don't give your phone number, but if you've got an email, if you've got any websites or Facebook, how would you like people to be able to get in contact with you?
You can find me at Free, Free, George Powell. That's my Facebook. Free, George Powell. Free George Powell.
Again, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. I wish you
Thank you.
nothing but success. You've got this opportunity. You've got a beautiful family. You've got the world supporting you. And I know you're going to make it through this upcoming trial unscathed and be able to continue on your mission with your passion, some real criminal justice reform.
Real criminal justice reform.
George, greatly appreciate your time, and I'll look forward to speaking with you again real soon.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.